The honourable member from Thornhill.
The Prime Minister gave the Finance Minister a real vote of confidence last week as he outsourced the job that she was supposed to have been doing for 4 years and gave it to a man who's not even in the Liberal caucus. First, the Prime Minister tried to fire her in the newspaper, and now she's being shoved aside for Carbon Tax Carney, a man focused on his own profits and his own corporate interests, who was brought in to serve as the de facto Finance Minister. She's lost her job responsibilities. She's lost her credibility. How long will the Phantom Finance Minister endure this humiliation?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I am not going anywhere. Prefer to focus on personal mudslinging and attacks rather than to actually talk about the economy. They don't want to talk about inflation because it's been down in the target range for 7 months in a row. They don't want to talk about interest rates down 3 times in a row. All they can do is insult people.
The honourable member from Thornhill.
Who's going to tell her? She just got a demotion, and he hired a guy that's not even elected to do her job. Does anyone believe that Carbon Tax Carney is going to tell the Prime Minister how to help a family afford groceries as the loudest cheerleader for carbon taxes ever? If the Finance Minister isn't completely humiliated by now, can she explain why Canadians should trust a man who is the #1 supporter of higher taxes to do her job?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we are seeing more clearly than ever that the only thing the Conservatives know how to do is to level personal attacks and personal denigration. They do not care about Canadians, and now they're scared about the facts of our economy. So let me tell you some facts. Inflation in the target range for 7 months in a row. Interest rates down 3 times in a row, and the IMF says we'll have the strongest economic growth in the G7.
The honourable member from Calgary, Nose Hill.
This summer, after he argued that Atlantic Canadian home heating oil should be carbon taxed, carbon tax-loving Mark Carney spent a lovely summer of whimsy having champers at the Royal Box at Wimbledon and rubbing shoulders at a swish cocktail party with a wealthy CEO who yesterday, coincidentally, got millions of dollars of tax dollars. This is not someone who's in touch with the struggle of average Canadians, but neither is the Prime Minister. Did he push aside his now phantom female cabinet minister because carbon tax-loving Mark Carney could get him into fancier parties than she can?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House.
Mr. Speaker, look, I first want to begin by saying it's great to be back in this place. I really did miss most people on this side. I can't say that I missed all of you that much, but I did miss you a little bit. But what I do want to say is that it's just typical from the Conservatives that when they have an eminent Canadian, someone who has given so much to this country, who doesn't agree with their economic vision or their vision at all in Canada, they attack them. Mr. Speaker, we need to be better than this. We need to support Canadians and be grateful when they put forward for public service. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Calgary, Nose Hill.
They're not even letting her answer the question anymore. At a time when so many people are struggling to make ends meet and pleading for someone to fix the budget, I'm struggling to find a reason why the Prime Minister would put an out-of-touch elitist, active archpriest of carbon price profiteering, who has massive conflicts of interest, in charge of the federal budget while shunting aside his female cabinet minister. What a feminist. Why does the now Phantom Finance Minister have to get approval for Canada's fall economic statement from carbon tax, conflict of interest, Mark Carney?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'm actually really glad to welcome back to the QP roster the member for Calgary Nose Hill. We haven't heard her personal attacks. And that is because they are afraid to reveal to Canadians their plan for austerity and cuts, because they know that's not what Canadians want.
The honourable member from Peterborough, Kawartha.
Mr. Speaker, we have two sources saying the view of some senior officials within the PMO, including Chief of Staff Katie Telford, that the Phantom Finance Minister has been ineffective in selling the government's economic policies. So, it's curious because we have a fake feminist Prime Minister who says he's all for women. Taxes are up, costs are up, the economy's in the toilet, and this carbon tax, Mark Carney, is now going to quadruple the carbon tax on all home heating across Canada. Yeah. So why is this Phantom Finance Minister okay with being publicly humiliated by this fake feminist Prime Minister?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the only people being humiliated today are Conservative MPs who have to listen to their colleagues wallow in the mud of personal character assassination. But what we are focused on is representing and working for Canadians. That's why, Mr. Speaker, the real news today is 30-year mortgage amortizations for all first-time home buyers. That's the real news, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Peterborough, Kawartha.
Mr. Speaker, it is not Conservatives saying that. It's the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, Katie Telford, for the record. And so I guess the question is before this Phantom Finance Minister. She simply has two choices. Is she going to join the graveyard of Liberal female ministers under this fake feminist Prime Minister? Or, like Jody Wilson-Raybould, Jane Philpott, or will she continue to be publicly humiliated?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, what we are seeing today is the Conservatives running away from the reality about the Canadian economy. They are running away from the fact that inflation is in the Bank of Canada's target range for 7 months in a row. They are running away from interest rates down 3 times in a row, the first time in the G7, and wages outpacing inflation for 18 months. The only thing the Conservatives know how to do is traffic in cheap insults. Canadians are a lot better than that.